Welcome to the happy hour. I am your host, Dr. Elia, once again, bringing you an incredible lady. This show is going to be a little bit different than anything else. My wife and I were not blessed to have daughters. We were blessed to have boys, beautiful boys. And then this lady comes into my life, and I kid you not, we're like twin souls. Juanique, which rhymes with unique, and boy, is she ever unique, Grover is today's guest. We're twin souls. Nobody on this planet actually gets me more than she does. And vice versa. We have this most unique relationship. So I'm kind of like her second dad, but she is my favorite daughter. So to the show. It's so good to see you, honey. You look great. And I can't wait to see you in a few days too, to see you and Ryan and the kids. So that's on the personal side. Yeah, we have this incredible relationship, like the father-daughter. She's the daughter. If I could write a script of the perfect daughter, Juanique would be it. She fits every single thing. I know you think I'm exaggerating because I love you so much, but it's true. And I'm so proud of you. And I want the world to know more of who you are and where have you been. So tell us a little bit about your journey, because it's been a tumultuous life in your young age. You've been through a lot.
I have, and thank you for having me on your show.
Of
I don't know
course.
what to call you, Dr. Ely or Dad.
Dad's good.
Dad.
Call me dad.
Um, I've had quite an interesting story, and I think a lot of people will resonate with it because it's a story of loss and deep loss and illness. And so, I immigrated to the United States at the age of 15, and just, as an immigrant yourself, from Greece, you always kind of feel like you're uprooted, and even in like as an adult, you just, you still feel like you're transitioning, even though you've been here for years and years and years. And so that was I was lucky to immigrate with such incredible parents and family and whatnot. And so that helped a lot. But I got married really young. I got married at 19, and then we had our first child when I was 27. My late husband and I did, and I was hit with Graves' disease. And this was like the very first, maybe the second thing that was big that happened to me. But it's interesting because of my upbringing and because of the parents that I had. The alternative healing was it's like in my bones, it's in my DNA. And so when I had the diagnosis, it wasn't, well, what medication do you want? It was, well, how am I going to fix and reverse this? Right. And
Mhm.
so, I had doctors laugh at me, and they're like, oh, you'll never fix it naturally. And I was like, well, watch, like, give me time and I'll do it. And I did within 6 months. Fast forward a year and a half later, I'm 20 weeks pregnant with our second child, and my late husband at the time was diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer. He was a month shy of his 33rd birthday. So he was really young, and it was quite shocking. It was really shocking. Especially at the age of 29, I was like, that was the last thing on my mind. I was still a baby myself, still having babies, and here my husband is diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer, and it's a bad one. I think the cure rate is like 5%, and so it was very dire, and we did the mainstream medical thing where, 4 surgeries, 40 radiation sessions, and, multiple chemotherapy sessions later, we did a PET scan and the cancer had still spread. And the doctors were like, this is like, he doesn't have a lot of time. We're just going to do chemo until he dies. And that was like one of those pivotal moments for me where it was like do or die, right? Like I could have been paralyzed with shock and self-pity. And trust me, I had those moments. I had a few days of like self-pity and feeling sorry for myself and looking at my children and seeing them as fatherless. And like I remember 4 days of that where it was just awful and I didn't want to be here. And then all of a sudden, like a light switch turned on and I was like, let's go. Let's freaking go. And I refused to let that be my story. I refused to feel so powerless. I refused to let such tragedy hit my family. And so my late husband and I, it was so interesting. I don't know. I look back, I'm like, how the heck did we do it? We started an alternative clinic. I started researching like a crazy person. And I was like, I want to start a clinic for you. I want to save you. I want to make sure that our kids have a dad that gets to see them grow up. And so we built this clinic where we do hyperbaric, medical grade hyperbaric oxygen therapy and ozone therapies and transdermal ozone and blood work. And nutritional therapy and whatnot. And I kind of did it all for him, and it's interesting because he lived a very long time. He lived for almost 5 years, which was 3 years longer than what they gave
Right.
us, and
I think you
unfortunately
told me once that like there was a group of people who had the similar diagnosis, and
Mhm.
he outlived all of them.
He did. He really did. And he had quality. He had quality. And, we started at like a top 50 podcast, and so we lived so big in 5 years. Like we lived 10 lifetimes in 5 years. And so cancer was an extreme, like it was so tragic, but it was also so beautiful because not only did we live big, but he died big too. Like, I know that sounds weird, but like, cancer gave him time to say goodbye and cancer gave him time to transition. And so it was a really hard and it was really grueling and it was extremely tragic and hard. But like it was also beautiful. People say that you lose loved ones, but we also found each other through death. And so
Mm,
it's interesting because even though he passed, our relationship continued. Like he's kind of like my angel best friend. Like I feel him all the time and I wasn't expecting that. I truly wasn't. I just saw tragedy in front of me, and as he passed, I can't describe it, but it was beautiful, and I felt him so big. It's like he's in the room, but I can't see him. And it's
mhm.
interesting because my children felt that way too. And so, but not to say that it was all beautiful, because I want people that have lost loved ones to know that how much it wrecks us too. Because a year after his passing, I then started dealing with really big health issues, like immense health issues that doctors just wanted to put me on anti-anxiety meds. But I was like, no, there's something fundamentally wrong. But as I traveled through grief and this grief world, I came across other widows who, when their loved ones passed, they were hit with health issues too. And so I kind of want to normalize that when your loved one dies, a part of you dies as well. And
Right.
you go like your heart is broken, but so is your body and so is your mind and your soul breaks too. I don't know how to explain it, but it's like when a loved one passes, like you have to untether yourself. And as you're untethering yourself because they're in you, they're in your DNA, they're in your cells. Like they're a part of you as much as you are a part of them. And when they pass, like you pass as well. And so, um,
Can I ask you something? So are you saying that you have met other widows, like as young as you or even maybe a little
yes,
bit older, who after their spouse died, they develop physical symptoms. They get sick
100%.
afterwards, after death.
Yes, some women, it was like the day after their husband passed. It's like their bodies were holding on for so long and just to get them through and to just get past it. And as soon as their spouse dies, like they get sick the next day and then they're diagnosed with some kind of autoimmune condition. I had a friend as young as 20, I think she was 24 or 26. She was really young. And as her husband died at like 28 or something from some kind of
Wow.
bone cancer. I know, super tragic. They
Even
had
younger
a
than you. Yeah.
baby.
Wow. Yeah.
Their baby was the same age as Satori, my baby at the time, and a few months later, she was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. Right, it like
But
20
she never had
something year
diabetes
old.
before at all. Interesting.
Never health issue, like nothing. And so like I want people to understand that grieving is real. Grieving wrecks you, right? But you have the power to overcome it. You have the power to heal and to not think that your body is against you, but your body's mourning as well. You know what I mean? And so what we need at the time, what people need to understand is death is hard and tragic and beautiful and it's all the things and it's like it breaks you and our journey there forward is to put the pieces back together. But my story and the what I want to convey to people is that it can happen, like healing happens. I remember, and it's interesting because I consider myself a health expert and myself and my coaches and the doctor at my clinic, Prova Health, we've helped thousands of people. And it's interesting because even though that language is like it's in my core, there were moments where I didn't feel like I was helpable. I thought I was lost to illness and to all kinds of neurological dysfunction. And I mean, and my symptoms were so immense. Like I was dizzy. I had vision issues, hearing issues, energy issues. I felt depression for the very first time. I would read a sentence and I had no idea what I was reading. Like the brain fog
The
was
brain fog.
it
Yeah.
was unbelievable. I mean, like trying to brush my teeth was hard. It took so much brain power. I thought I'd have to go on disability. Like that's how bad it was. I'm like, how am I going to raise my kids? How am I going to run my two companies? How am I going to get through? Because like the only way I can describe it is like it felt like my brain was melting, where, I would have these twitches and tremors throughout my body, numbness, tingling, and it was very scary. It was very, very scary.
But not psychosomatic. Those are real, though.
Real,
Totally real.
absolutely real. Like my inflammation was through the roof, but here's the thing is like everything is connected. It's psychosomatic and it's real, right? The amount of stress, the amount of trauma, the amount of PTSD, like of course my body broke. Of course it turned into like this inflammatory cascade or hashtag bomb, right? And so like of course, because of everything that I went through. And so, but and it took me about 2 years to kind of piece the pieces back together again.
So this
But
is really important. It doesn't happen overnight.
it
Like
doesn't.
you have to get curious about your well-being. You have to get curious about your health. You have to look at alternative sources and I mean, try new things, be
Mhm.
open, but more importantly, take ownership of your health and take
Totally.
ownership of your well-being and don't surrender that power to anybody else.
I love that you said that because, I could have gotten lost in the system of like, doctor, tell me what to do, doctor, tell me what to do, doctor, tell me what to do. But what I've learned is that death and illness are the two biggest teachers you'll ever have on this planet. Like,
Wow. Wow.
illness is a calling back to yourself. Illness is a compass that you have gone astray from yourself, right? Illness is the teacher that tells you that you have abandoned yourself or you aren't taking care of yourself or that something is in misalignment. And it can be the loss of a loved one. I know when I was taking care of Tristan, I didn't have needs. I didn't have wants. Like Juanique had disappeared entirely. And then he died and then I still had to take care of kids and I still had to take care of a business. So there was no time or space left for me and my self-care. I took off 3 weeks. That's it. That's all I could afford to take off. And then I just had to launch back into, taking care of stuff. And what illness forced me to do was to slow down and take care of myself. If you don't make time for your wellness, you're going to be forced to make time for your illness.
Right.
And illness
I
teaches
love
us
that.
that.
Say that again. Say that again one more time because that's really beautiful. Say that again.
If you don't take time for wellness and you don't take time for self-care, you are forced to make time for illness. And your illness could become your full-time job, right? And so it's so important that self-care is a part of your daily routine. One of my friends, her husband is going through cancer right now, and the advice I gave her was don't lose yourself. Like this is your husband's cancer, it's not yours. Do not take it on. Your only job is to love him and to love yourself through this, right? And so oftentimes and you don't even have to bury a spouse or lose a loved one. Oftentimes we just get lost to our jobs or lost to toxic relationships, and then our bodies take on that stress and our bodies force us to like center back on ourselves. I had someone ask me in one of my classes because I teach students online how to become self-healers. And she asked me, she's like, were you not mad at your body for getting sick when you were diagnosed with Graves' disease? And my answer was no, because I betrayed my body first. My body didn't betray me. I never took care of myself. I took care of everyone else and I became irrelevant in anything. I took care of a new baby. I took care of my husband going to school. And so my
I
Graves'
mean,
disease.
and you're so nurturing. I mean, for you've I remember when I first saw you when Tristan was dying, and I remember saying to you, how is it that you're not in the corner on the floor in the fetal position sucking your thumb? Like, how are you running a thriving business, taking care of a dying husband, and also taking care of your two beautiful children, who at times are not like any young kids. They're
Mhm.
you're in the trenches
Yeah.
basically,
Yeah.
and you were like relentless. But and I could see it in your eyes though that the light that I've known and that I adore you and I love you so much had been dimmed
Hmm.
because the self-care had been compromised. Because
100%.
you just didn't do it. Yeah, it was like physically visible in your eyes.
Yeah. You know, like again, if we don't take time for ourselves, even if a loved one is going through the worst possible thing
How do you do
imaginable.
that without guilt, though? I'm curious. Like, okay, it's so your husband is sick, or your
Hmm.
significant other is sick. You're maybe dying, or maybe they're just really sick. How do you not? Um, how do you do and say self-care? I got to take care of myself
Mm,
in order to take care of him. And that's not a selfish thing because people call me out on that all the time. It's like, is self-care selfish? I'm like, yes, and if it is, do more. Right?
right,
Double
right.
up on your self-care.
You know,
Seriously,
taking
without
care of
guilt.
other taking care of other people requires that your cup is overflowing, right? Or your cup is full, and so you have to fill up your cup so that you can show up better for them. I remember even though he was dying, I still went on my walks, I still exercised. I would ask someone to watch Tristan for an hour to 2 hours a day so that I could just leave and decompress and ground myself, and like I had to do that so that I could show up for him so that I wasn't in bed ill, you know what I mean? And so we are better for our loved ones, for our children, for our spouses when we are well. And so it's not selfish to take care of yourself. And in fact, you are showing up better for them. You're showing up more regulated, you're showing up more happy, you're showing up more cheerful, you're showing up with more patience. You are a better version of yourself for them, right? Or you can not take care of yourself and be grumpy and miserable and dysregulated and angry and resentful, and still do the job, but you're doing the job poorly. So if you want to show up for them in their hardship, like you have to show up for yourself first, and then you can be whatever it is you need to be for them because you are okay and you have you.
Tristan passed away just over three years ago. Your life has changed a lot since then. Let's talk a little bit about that, because
Yeah.
I guess there's life after grief. There's
Yes.
life, and there's a great life, as a matter of fact, not just existing, but actually thriving.
Yeah. You know, I had to make the decision to live another life. Like I had to give myself permission. And, I was 33 at the time with two young kids. And it had been so hard and heavy for so long. I was like, I want to live an epic life and I want to find an epic love. And because I still have so much life and love to give. Like there's still so much left. And I called in my now husband, who is just sunshine and rainbows. And he really, I call him my hero. He saved me, because I needed someone to fall on, because when my body broke and when I went through my challenges, like he was there for me every step of the way. And it's really crazy because a lot of people are like, well, don't you feel guilty for loving someone else? And I'm like, you don't love one child more than the other. They're different. Like your loves are different. And what's so beautiful about Ryan is he honors Tristan so much. Like I came home one day and he was putting up pictures of Tristan all over our house. And we talk about
Oh,
Tristan
so
all the
sweet.
time. And what's funny is, like when you call out to your children and you give them the wrong name, and I'm trying to call Satori, but I call her Tristan and I call her Tennyson and I call her Henry. Like Tristan's name is so in our minds, our subconscious, our conscious, like all the time. Like he always comes up in conversation. We always honor him, and so I
And I
could
want
like
I
I
want to share
I
something with
go
our
ahead.
audience about, because Juanique reaches out to me like literally a couple of months after Tristan passes away. Goes, Dad, I think I met the one, and I'm thinking to myself, oh no, what are you about to do? So I fly out to Utah. It was around Halloween, and I meet this man, Ryan Grover, whom I love. And I had like the Robert De Niro talk and meet the parents with him. I'm like, listen, don't hurt my girl because the Greek mafia is going to come after you if you do that. I'm telling you
Mhm.
right now. Just she's been through a lot. Please don't hurt. Anyway, long story short, we have this conversation. We bond. First time we've ever met, and we hug, and he hugs us like I do, like deep hug. And the spirit says to me, you know what? Ryan's going to become one of your sons. You'll see. Just as
Mhm.
I get that download, he whispers in my ears as we're hugging, like he goes, "I love you, brother." And
Mhm.
Ryan and I are like in love with one another. Like he is just like a kind of a younger version, just taller, more handsome, and
You guys are
whatever.
cut from the same cloth, like you're the same human.
The same humans, right? We finish each other's thoughts. And even though I had some legitimate concerns as a dad, it's like, this is way too soon. Like, Tristan just passed away a couple of months ago, and here comes Ryan. Now, fast forward 3 years. Ryan has his own beautiful little boy, Henry. The most amazing thing is that, I officiated at your wedding with Ryan last
Mhm.
year, and now you have your own little baby called
Yes.
Theo,
Hmm.
who's 7 months, 8 months,
He's now 8, almost
eight
9.
months.
Uh-huh.
Who Theo, of course, is a Greek for short for Theodore, which means gifts from God. And guess what day Theo was born? On Thanksgiving Day, no less.
Hmm.
So this is a beautiful story that comes out of pain, illness, death, grief, and yet I guess the call to action for the rest of us is like no matter what has happened in our lives, live our best lives now. There's so much to
Hmm.
live for, regardless of what we've been through, right?
Right.
And you and Ryan and your beautiful blended family are such a perfect example of that.
Thank you.
It's great to see your smile. It's great to see you happy. He
Thank
adores you. Ryan just adores you, and I adore him
you.
because he adores you. So
Yeah.
I love your family. I can't wait to see you guys in a few
Um,
days.
I know,
So
I know. I want to just end on one thing that, it all can exist together. Like the deep sadness and the deep happiness, they coexist together. We went on this incredible camping trip this weekend, and like my heart was so full, and I can still miss Tristan. And I do every single day. I miss him. I talk to him every day, and I honor him, and I honor him by living this full life. And so, so much beauty and pain, so much heartache and love can coexist inside of you. Like we are capable of complex emotions. And so yeah, just know that healing happens, and it all can coexist together. Like it all can.
all the things, like you like to say,
All the
all the
things.
things. Yes, a range of emotions. Thank you, honey, for being on the show. I love you. I
You.
can't wait to see you. And give my love to Ryan and the kids. We'll see
I
you soon.
will.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye. I'm so happy that you guys got to meet Juanique, my one and only daughter, actually. I love her so much, and she's been through so much in her life, in her young life. I mean, to be a widow at 33, and yet, like she shared in her story, life goes on. And it is all the things. There's a spectrum of emotions that we can feel, right? It's okay to feel grief and pain and loss. And at the same time, it's okay to say, you know what? Best way to honor the person that you've lost is to live my best life, my happiest life. And I can relate to that too. When my mom passed away, her parting words to me from cancer again. I don't really like cancer. It's been like most of you, I'm sure, has taken away way too many people that we love, right? She said, "Don't worry about me. I'm going to be just fine." This is on her dying, her last statement to me. And she said, "My boy, I just want you to be happy." And even though, just like Jeannick, I grieved and still miss my mom after all these decades. Honestly, the best way to honor somebody that I've honored my mom is to find my own personal happiness and wellness. I think Jeannick has done the same thing with Ryan and her blended family and her healing. So feel the feelings, feel the grief, feel the pain, feel the loss, and at the same time, make a commitment to yourself to practice massive self care and to live your best life. Remember, life is too short. Do not procrastinate your happiness. Thank you. We'll see you guys next week.